Now, a speech today in the Scottish Parliament by Nicola Sturgeon, and it's a script I think that you will have heard before. But let's see what Nicola had to say today.
Presiding Officer, I can announce that the Scottish Government is proposing that the independence referendum be held on the 19th of October 2023.
So, it's not a referendum, it's a never-endum. It's going to go on forever. That once-in-a-generation referendum that Scotland had in 2014 has, within a few short years, now been demanded again by the Scottish First Minister. And, of course, a couple of years after that, there was another referendum, another once-in-a-generation referendum, which was the entirety of the United Kingdom voting on whether we should remain or leave the European Union. It would appear that Nicola Sturgeon and all of the Scottish nationalists don't actually respect any referendum result whatsoever. It's completely and utterly beyond me why. I genuinely don't understand it. I don't get it. But I suppose it is the raison d'etre for the SNP. If they haven't got a referendum to fight for, if they haven't got separation to fight for, then what's the point, frankly, of them being in existence? The one thing about this that really does infuriate me is that my campaign, which I was involved in for I think about 27 years in all, which was for the independence of the United Kingdom. And remember, UKIP was the UK Independence Party. I wanted us to be genuinely independent, not to have European law put upon us, something over which we only had a very, very tiny vote. So freed from the European Union, I saw us as being an independent country, yet we keep, from the Scottish media, from the mainstream media here in London, it keeps being referred to as independence. I don't get it if they all want to be part of the European Union as well. Well, to help me unpack this, and I hope explain this word independence, is Neale Hanvey, leader of the Alba party in the House of Commons. Neale, fine, you don't want London. You don't want old Etonians telling you what you can and can't do. I get it. I understand it. I'm not sure I agree with it, but I get it. But how is it independence if you want Brussels to rule you?
Well, let's start off with that, Nigel,
Please.
Because that's not the position of the Alba party. We don't want to immediately return to the EU, as the SNP are suggesting. We believe that EFTA is an important consideration, and that would resolve some of the cross-border issues.
Alex Salmond's changed his mind on all of this.
Well, I mean, it's a different proposition. The world has moved on since 2014.
Yes.
In 2014, we were members of the EU, and we were concerned about your party taking us out of the EU, and we were told that the only way to remain in the EU was to stay in the Union.
But I repeat the question. So Nicola Sturgeon, OK, you're Alba. I know there's been a big fallout, and I get it, that Salmond and you have a slightly different position on this. I get that. And the world has changed.
Yes.
But Nicola Sturgeon still insists that Scotland will be members of the European Union and independent. You can't be both.
Well, that's a case for Nicola Sturgeon to answer.
But you defended that for years too.
Well, I didn't.
Well,
I defended being in the EU, but now that we're out of the EU, we have to reconsider where we are. So we have to reposition ourselves.
I will ask the SNP that question directly. But let me ask you another important question.
Can I just finish that point?
Go on, please.
So the ultimate decision about whether we join EFTA or join the EU after independence, that's a matter for the Scottish people. That's not for me to decide, and it's not for Nicola Sturgeon to decide. That is a political case that will be made after independence.
But if you are voting to leave London, it's quite important to tell people where you're going. And
we will make the arguments for EFTA.
So what currency would you use?
Well, we believe that we should have our own currency as swiftly as possible. So it would be a Scottish pound or something.
With your own central bank?
Yes. So we've got, I ran through the list of our energy resources today at Treasury Questions, and we've got 8% of the UK population, 98% of crude oil reserves.
That depends where you draw the border. There's a big dispute over that. There's a big dispute over that. I think you've redrawn the international map.
Absolutely
I think a lot of those oil fields are actually in English, but that's by the by.
Those are the facts. We have a robust economy.
Alex Salmond led that campaign, that separation referendum in 2014, with terrific energy and zest. He did get very caught out on the question of currency and the question of the EU, and in the end we know a third of SNP members voted for Brexit. So there was always that difficulty, there was always that divide there. But Salmon made it clear, and Sturgeon, his deputy at the time, made it clear, this was a once-in-a-lifetime vote. Is it fair to inflict this again on people?
I don't think it was once in a lifetime. I think it was
once in a generation,
yeah. And so if you look at a political generation as defined in the Good Friday Agreement is 7 years, and we're now well beyond that 7 years, so it's time to revisit the question. And to go back to that point that you made earlier, look, the question of independence would not be on the agenda if the Scottish people didn't vote for parties who support the case for independence. The reason that this issue has continued to be alive is because people have consistently, since 2014,
They're voting for Scottish parties. They're voting for Scottish parties as opposed to English-led parties, and I can see that. But I mean, I have to say, it does seem to me, given the level of devolved powers that Scotland has. And let's be frank, given how badly education's gone, given how badly the Scottish budget, I mean 22% deficit this year, despite all the English money that we give you. And it seems to me, actually...
That's actually recycled from Scottish money, actually.
Well, I think we spend a lot more taxpayers' money per head in Scotland than we do in England. But it seems to me that put to the Scottish people, they'd just say no again, wouldn't they?
I don't think so. And I'm absolutely undeterred by the 50-50 in the polls at the moment. The last time we started the referendum campaign around 2012, after the 2011 majority win by Alex Salmond, the polls were somewhere around 26 to 30%. We managed to put 15% on that during that campaign to take us up to 45. And don't forget, it was over 50%. It was 51% before the vow was announced. So we made great progress during that campaign. But going back to the point about the Scottish Government and their challenges, I'm not here to defend the Scottish Government. The SNP
but I'm saying that the Scottish people will look at it and say we haven't done that great a job.
And that's why it's so important that this campaign is about a popular movement in the, as it was a grassroots movement in the previous
Neale.
referendum, and we cut that link with the Scottish Government so that their day-to-day challenges don't become the problems of the independence referendum.
Whether I agree with you or not, I'm never going to knock people for having political dreams and fighting for them for years, because I did very much the same thing.